Okay. Well, thank you for being with us today. If you are watching online, I hope you can join us in person, maybe next Sunday. And as many of you know by now, we are in a 4 weeks message called Relationship Goals. How many of you watch Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever other media out there, and you see some nice picture of couple, married or not married, and you are like, wow, that's so cute, that's so nice, I want that. Any of you? None of you? I'm the only one? Yeah, sure. Well, Kelly and I have been looking at some of those pictures, and like this one. Look at that nice picture. I don't think she sleeps that comfortable, but she sure looks comfortable there. So then we decided, why not? There is me. Because we don't like to copy, we like to create our own. I don't want to have that actually, but there is another one. They look so happy, they are so perfect. Don't laugh, the next one is coming. There you go. That's us. Another one is, look at this nice couple. Can you appreciate that in Minnesota in February? They have such a great time, and I think they are married and they live happily ever after, and this is all we could do for you guys in Minnesota. That's all we could do. And the last one, this is a nice couple from Romania, actually, that they don't look too happy, but they built a wonderful life together, and they had a good life together, a long life. And then there is me and Kelly. We are not that old yet, but we are hoping to build that. That's the only card we could come up with. But that being said, so many times we are derailed by what media is putting out there. And we are trying to imitate, we are trying to copy, we are trying to just be someone else instead of trying to develop our own marriage. You know what? God wants for our marriage to be something better than what other people have there. And some of those fancy pictures, some of those awesome pictures, some people take hours to come up with them. They have a whole crew of photographers and lights and angles to be able to take a picture like that and post it there. And we are thinking, oh, such a wonderful life they have, when actually might not be true. Who married opposite? Any of you? Yep. Most of the time, opposite attract. When you are dating, opposite attract. Later on, we are getting married, and then opposite attack. I think it's pretty true. And if you've been married for more than 6 months, you realize that. The first few months is pretty sweet. You are still kind of in a dating phase, so everything's still opposite attract. But life starts happening in a married life, and then we start attacking everyone. See, when you are dating, you're like, ladies, you're probably like, oh, he's so laid back, he's so nice and so amazing and not full of tension, and he's just laid back. Then you guys get married, and you're like, get off the couch, go get a job. Something that you found really nice when you are dating, you found something very frustrating after you get married. Maybe you were like, oh, he's such a hard worker. He's every day going and working hard and having 2 jobs. You get married, and then you're like, he's never home. It's amazing how sometimes just a certificate or a ceremony, just starting a marriage life, can shift our mind, what we are thinking. Some of you been like, you know what? I thought I'm dating a spender, and after we got married, he became a saver out of the blue. Or maybe one of you are very punctual. You are very on time. You are right there, and you are 2 minutes earlier. Some of you are more flexible. When you get there, not a big deal. And it's like, everything when you are dating is kind of like, yeah, it's laid back, it's fine. And then you are getting married and like, it's not fine anymore. Some of you are very organized, like my wife, Kelly. She's getting all the t-shirts from the laundry. She's folding them. She's rolling them and put them in the drawer. Like you open the drawer and there are those perfect color rolled t-shirts. Me, they are all laid in a basket in the closet. Not the dirty ones, the clean ones. I have another basket for the dirty one, and then you go through them like that, and you find the one you want, you wear it, and that's it. Drive her insane. When we got married at the beginning, she was putting my clothes away. And later on, she realized, you know what? It's a last battle. And she just gave me a basket in our closet. It's my own corner. Every time she has wearing some clothes, she put them in the nice dirty basket. Usually when I wear and they are dirty, I just throw them next to the basket. And I need to get better at that. I think I drive her insane, but I still do. When we are in love and we are dating, without relationship goals in our marriage, we are going to end up fighting and probably even in divorce. And most of the time is because we do not develop relationship goals in our lives. So, everyone remember 4 goals that we've been going through these 4 weeks is Christ-centered. And when I say Christ-centered, it's not just being a Christian. It's being a follower of Christ, which sometimes it's harder. Then we discover mission-driven, how important it is to be in unity with your spouse and be having a mission-driven marriage. Then we talked about devil kicking, how important it is not to fight with your spouse, but to fight with your spouse on the same side against the scheme and the strategies of the devil. And today we are going to talk about covenant keeping. Let's start with Matthew chapter 19, verse 3-6. Some Pharisees came to him to test him, to Jesus. And they asked, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason? They were looking for a loophole in their marriages, if you ask me. They were trying to find a way out. Jesus replied, haven't you read that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female and said, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. So those are the words of Jesus. 2 weeks ago, we saw that what God unites, the devil is trying to separate. He schemes and have all kinds of strategies to just bring division. But what does it mean to be covenant keeping in our marriage? And before we dive in that, let me describe 3 approaches to marriage that we see in today's world. We see all the way around us. Number 1, it's the casual approach. Casual approach. Marriage is just a piece of paper. Not big deal, it's not important. We might take it, we might not take it. We can just live together. Number 2 approach that we see in today's world is contractual approach. Marriage is a contract. I will keep my part of the deal as long as you keep your part of the deal. And that's how some people see their marriage. And number 3, it's the covenantal approach. Marriage is a holy covenant established by God. Let's talk about those 3 and unpack them for a couple minutes. The casual approach. Marriage is not that big of a deal. Marriage doesn't matter. I might get married, I might not get married. After all, it's just a piece of paper. Maybe I'll give it a try. When we have a casual approach to marriage, usually bleeds or leads into casual approach to sex. You might think like, no big deal. As long as 2 consenting adults approve or agree, what big deal, you might think. The last time I checked, sex feels good, so why not do it? It's not hurting anyone, so after all, should not be anyone's business, right? We live in the 21st century, crying out loud. What do you want me to do? We go without that? So, since marriage doesn't matter, sex doesn't matter, people move in together. Might be convenient, might save money, share the same address, share everything there. After all, they start testing things out. A Barna research done in 2017 said this: 57% of people interviewed said that currently or previously lived together. So boy and girl, 57%, more than half, they lived together before they were married. They were committed, but just leaving options on the table, just in case. If you are living together, my goal is not to embarrass you. My goal is not to shame anyone. My goal is not to just make you leave church and say, I'll never go back there again. But I would like to just call it as it is. Let's just face it. Let's just say you are going to just live together. You are going to do few things that are typically reserved for married couple. So you move in with somebody, you bring your toothbrush, you put your clothes in the drawer, you share the bills, probably you share the same address, and probably you share a sandwich together. Eventually, things don't work out. Eventually, maybe you start fighting and arguing, and you realize, you know what? That's not for me. So, you are taking half of your sandwich, you are taking your toothbrush, you are taking your clothes, and you move on. Maybe with the next adventure in your life. Or maybe take a break and looking for that next adventure in your life. You find the second person and do the same. Later, you discover maybe the third or fourth that actually that is the one. That is the right person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And you know what? You get married. But soon you realize opposite don't just attract. Opposite also attack. Later you realize that after 1 or 2 or 5 or 10, 15, 30 years of marriage, you realize, I don't think he is the one, or I don't think she is the one. And you know what? Divorce start being an option on the table. Why is divorce so common in today's world? Because a lot of people, in my opinion, played house, pretended to be married, and practice divorce. If marriage is just a piece of paper, sex is not big of a deal, and we can live with multiple people through our lives, why do we think that we will not end up in divorce? Because we just develop some habits in our lives. This could be a consequence of just casual approach to marriage. So, the number 2 that I would like to cover is contractual approach to marriage. I believe all state you have to sign a paper when you get married. Somehow you have to record it with the county or the state, and it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's good to sign a paper and register and be recorded. Your marriage being recorded. But if it's just a contract, it's not what God intended for us to have in our marriage. The problem with the contract is this. What is a contract based on? A contract is based on mutual distrust. Might shock you, right? A contract is based on mutual distrust. You know why? If we'll have an agreement, if we'll have a covenant, if we'll have a deal, and we'll respect and honor each other, we'll just probably shake our hand or bump our elbow, or just, we have an agreement. We don't need anything in writing. But if we do not trust the other person, they need to sign on the dotted line. So, in my opinion, a contract is based on mutual distrust. I used to be in real estate, and I used to have rental properties. And you know what? I always had contracts. They had to sign a lease, or they had to sign a contract for it if they bought a property from me. And we had everything in the contract. And you know what? I was doing my part as long as they were doing their part. If they were not doing their part, I will not keep my part of the deal. Pretty much if they were not paying rent or mortgage payment or the contract for deed payment, I will have to invite them politely to leave the house. And they will not, then we'll have to enforce it. So pretty much, I didn't know those people, and then we say okay, you have to sign a contract. If a marriage is just a contract, it's not gonna end up good. Because pretty much when we walk into a marriage and contractual approach to marriage, we are thinking I will do my part as long as you do your part. What does a contract do? Actually, a contract is just looking for our own self-interest. And sometimes, what do I get from it? Or how can I get out of it? That's what technically a contract is. And you know what? Marriage is more than that. And God's design for marriage is more than that. Generally, contracts are temporary. You don't sign a contract for the rest of your lives. You sign a contract for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or the worst case scenario, I think about mortgages for 30 years, but that's about it, right? So a contract is just a short term. Marriage is supposed to be a life term and not just a short period of time. Again, a contract is about protecting rights and limit responsibilities. The least I can do in this, the better it is, right? That's what a contract is about. It's about increasing our rights and limit our responsibilities. If it is just a contract, it's based on that you have to live up to upon agreed terms. Meaning that if you call me names, if you betray me in certain ways, or perhaps you don't make me happy, well, that means you don't keep your part of the deal and I'm out of here. I am not bound by this contract anymore. So, a lot of people are just, let's find our separate ways. So, if it is a casual approach to marriage, it is a contractual approach to marriage, and now I want to talk about the third way to marriage, that I think it's God's design, that it's God's purpose for our marriages, and that is the covenantal approach to marriage. Covenantal approach to marriage is not based on mutual distrust. is not temporary, and is not motivated by self-interest. Let me say it again. A covenant approach to marriage is not based on mutual interest, is not temporary, and is not motivated by self-interest. Covenant approach is based on unconditional commitment, motivated by a sacrificial love for the other. But let's talk about what the covenant is. I don't think any of us walk around saying like, oh, I'm in a covenant marriage. So it's a word that actually is not used in today's culture, but it's a very important word if you read the Bible. Hebrew word for covenant, it's berith. And actually what that means is cutting. It's a little small, or not small, shed of blood. That kind of the meaning behind the word berith it is, what we translate in today's world, the covenant. In the Old Testament, if two people were to enter a covenant, will often be a shed of blood. In the Old Testament actually was a ceremony, if you want to call it. When two people were entering a covenant, they will sacrifice a bull or 7 lambs. So I know it's going to be a little graphic, but follow me, go with me here. So they will take a bull, they will kill the bull, and then they will cut it in the middle. And they will have 2 parts. Then the 2 people that enter the covenant, they will start walking around the bulls 7 times, walking around. I'm getting dizzy, I think I'm going to stop here. 7 times walking around the cut in half bull, and then they will say this: may it happen to me what happened to this bull if I don't keep my covenant to you. Think about it. Will make you think about how hard people will enter a covenant when you know you have some consequences. A covenant is more than just signing a contract. A covenant is more than just a casual deal. A covenant has shed of blood. If you go to an Old Testament wedding, Old Testament Hebrew wedding, let me just give you a little description how the wedding takes. So everybody is joining for the wedding, for the ceremony, and the room is full, it's packed. And most of the time in the Old Testament Hebrew wedding, when people were having wedding, was more like a city party. The whole village is coming, right? So they were having the ceremony. Most of the time the priest will take the bride's hand and the groom's hand, and then they will make a small cut. They will put their hands together to illustrate that the blood is getting together, and it's also Leviticus is saying that the life is in the blood, and he's just illustrating that in their blood it's life, in their marriage. After they will hold their hands together, he will take a cloth and wrap it around their hand. After that, they will present their vows to each other in the presence of family members, friends, but also in front of God. After that, before the ceremony, before the party begins, they were departing. They were going to what it's called chapa or hapa. It's more like the bridal chapel. If you want to call it, it's the honeymoon room. So everybody still waits for the party. They are departing. They are going to a separate room where they are going to just join one another. I'm not going to use hands for that illustration. So the lady, the woman, the virgin, is going to connect with the man, and they are going to seal marriage. So they go together to Hapa. I think that's where we are getting our phrase Hapa Hapa in English. No, that's not. I think it's Romanian. Never mind, is no Hapa Hapa here in the United States. So the two will become one, right? Then once they seal their holy covenant, they will come back and then party will start. Can you imagine how awkward that will be? Can you imagine everybody in the party, 10, hundreds of people like, what did you do? But think about it. If there will be a virgin woman and a virgin man going to the Hapa, probably they will be back in just 5 minutes. I think I'm derailing. Probably everybody will be like, oh, you are back, come on, let's party now. But what I hope you understand from the illustrations that being presented to us by history and by godly people and godly culture is that marriage is more than just a casual relation. Marriage is more than just a contract. Marriage is a covenant and should be honored by everyone. Marriage does matter to God, so does the lovemaking, which is a gift from God to humankind. But Hebrew chapter 13 verse 4 said this: marriage should be honored by all. And Hebrew word for all means all. No room for interpretation. And when I say all, that means kids should honor the marriage. Teenagers with full of hormones and everything else should honor the marriage. Young adults in 20s, with a lot of desires, they should honor the marriage. Even 45, 50, 55 years old, married or not married, divorced, they should honor the marriage because marriage does matter to God. And this verse is very clear. Marriage should be honored by all. And when I say all here, many people understand that all means all that are married. No. All, it's all, including the ones that are not married. And the marriage bed kept pure. See how we talk about sex in church, how we talked about sex with our kids, in my opinion, has to change. So many times I grew up and everybody teach me in the church and everywhere else, no, 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 until you get married. And then yes, 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 yes. Well, it's really hard when you say no, 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 to just shift your mind that now it's a yes, yes, yes. In my opinion, how we should talk about sex in our marriage with our kids and so forth is wait, 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 because something holy is going to happen. Wait to get married, to have sex. Because that way we will honor godly, biblical principle in our lives. Waiting when you are a teenager, waiting when you are a young adult, waiting after you are divorced. It's God's way of protecting us, but also it's our way of honoring God through our marriage and to honor our marriage. So, if you have been saying yes, yes, yes for a long time, and right about now you are like feeling a little conviction, and you are not sure where to go from here, I have good news. See, in my opinion, when Jesus gave his life on the cross, and he created us, he made us a new person. a new creation. In my opinion, and I'm ready to fight for this, is not just spiritual. It's also physical. So when God said he created us a new person, that means we are new. What is in the past? It's in the past, doesn't matter. He washed it away. What is very important is what we are going to do moving forward from where we are. Are we going to change our mind about marriage? Are we going to see it as a covenant approach or just as a casual or contractual approach? What we are going to do next is going to help us develop and have a godly marriage in our life or not. Marriage is a holy covenant. And in my opinion, those 4 goals that we've been talking about for the last 4 weeks are very important in applying them in our lives to be able to have not just a good marriage, but have a godly, successful, amazing, what God intended for us to have as a marriage. So, the 4 goals that I want for each one of us to remember. If you forget anything that I mentioned, if you forget anything that we talk about, I would like you to just remember those 4 goals that are very important for your marriage and for my marriage. And those are Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, and covenant-keeping. If we will apply those 4 goals in our marriage, we will take it to the next level. I would like you to say it with me together. And say it as you believe it. We are going to be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, and covenant-keeping. You know what? If we will apply those principles, we are going to become in our marriage what God intended us for us to be. You might think, oh, but you don't understand my situation. You might say, oh, but easy for you to say those things. Easy for you to have a marriage. You are married with Miss Perfect. No, I'm not. I shouldn't have said that. I hope she's going to listen to the message after dinner tonight, because I have no plans. Man, I'm in trouble, because usually she's listening to the message right when we get home. Anyone would like to take me out for dinner? No, just kidding. We are not perfect. We know each other. We know that in our marriage. But also we know that we want to work on our marriage. I want to acknowledge this, because are people that are hurt in their marriage, are people that are dealing with massive betrayals, are people that live in dysfunction, maybe with a lot of different levels of pain in their marriages. And I want to just acknowledge that it's complicated. It is complicated, and I don't have time to cover some of those situations in my message. Probably you want to get home before next Sunday. But what I want to tell you is that our world, mine and Kelly's, it's complicated also. I want to guarantee you that as many spiritual attacks in our lives, we have as many spiritual attacks in our lives as many of you out there, if not even more. You know what? 2 days ago, I found myself raising my voice to Kelly, and was something to do with the church, actually. And was something very little, very easy. Like somebody was trying to get on our computer to create the service schedule, and then she couldn't. I helped her get on my computer because she does it remotely from home. And then she was on the computer working, and then computer went off again. I went to the computer, and now I'm frustrated, right? This is the third time I'm getting up from what I'm doing, I was supposed to be doing from my own time, to just fix this problem that actually was Kelly's department. So I fixed it, and Kelly's coming upstairs trying to figure out what's happening. And then at that moment, I realized she left the computer unplugged. which I told her many times, don't keep the computer plugged in all the time. And like, I turn around without realizing, and you unplug the computer. She looks at me and like, you snapped at me. Like, I did. And you know what? I have to apologize. Was not the right attitude. I know it was my own frustration, but so many times life happened, and so many times we are gonna fall short. But we have to be intentional in developing our relation and our spouse. And you know what? An I'm sorry can go a long way. So, what I'm saying is that I know are a lot of marriages in problems or struggles. But Kelly and I realized from the beginning, first thing that we realized in our marriage was this. English is not my first language. Before she assumed anything, I want her to double check that is what I really meant to say. So many times, people born in the same country, speaking the same language, they don't communicate the same way. And they have a miscommunication somehow, somewhere. And they just assume things, and then they are just going on the wrong path. Instead of just like, wait. And many times Kelly will look at me and it's like, do you really mean this? Which was an easy way for me out, because sometimes I'll just see her face and I'll be like, no! But serious now. We have to be sure we are on the same page and the communication is not interrupted. Something else Kelly and I decided to do is that our marriage is as good as we decide it's going to be. Not as good as I, not as good as her, as good as we together decided to be. Sometimes we don't feel like doing things, let's be honest. I don't feel like being nice, or maybe I don't feel like forgiving, or I don't feel like working, going to get a job, or anything like that. But many times we do it because it's right, and many times we do it because it's asked from us to do it. And it's right, even if we don't feel like it. How many areas in our life do you think you can act like, well, I don't feel like it? If you have a kid, do you ever feel like, I'm not gonna feed the kid, what big deal? I gave him life, I brought him in this world, you are on his own at 2 years old or 6 months. We don't feel like it sometimes, but we do have to feed the kid, right? Well, I'm not going to work today, I just don't feel like it. How many of you can keep a job like that? I know many people act like that and work like that, unfortunately. But you cannot have a sustainable life like that. Also, you cannot have a sustainable marriage if we think like that. Sometimes we don't feel like it, but we have to do it. How many of you feel like, well, I feel like I don't want to pay taxes? I feel like it, yeah? Many of you raise your hands, right? A lot of us feel like I don't want to pay taxes, or insurance for that matter. But we do pay it, right? Because it's right, because it has to be done, and so forth. We choose. We are intentional, feeling or not feeling, to be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, and covenant-keeping. We are intentional into that. See, something else I think in our relation with God, our relation with God is going to affect our relation with our spouse. Many of us see our relation with God as a casual relation. Oh, if I can go to church only Easter and Christmas, or maybe every other month, or maybe once a quarter, when we have a relation with God casual, it's going to affect our marriage life. Many of us see our relation with God as a contractual relationship. Many of us think like, well, if I do this, then God will do that. And if God does this, then I will do this. Which actually is not God's intent for our relation with Him. See, God's relation with us, it's a covenantal relation. because actually he did shed his blood for us to have a relation with him. That is a covenant relationship. Jesus died on the cross for you and I to have a relation with him. And also, if you are looking in Apostle Paul's letter, he's making this parallel between husband, love your wives as Jesus loved the church. And how did Jesus love the church? Giving his life for the church. Sometimes it's not about what can I get from the marriage. Sometimes it's not about if I feel like doing the right things. Sometimes it's about doing the right things because we are required to do right things. And you know what? Our relation with God has to be covenantal. Many of you probably, if you are watching online or you are here, maybe you don't know what that means, or maybe you don't know where to go from there. Maybe you want to enter a covenantal relation with God. And I would like to just make it very easy for you. All you have to do is just ask Jesus in your life. Just give your life to him, and that will give you opportunities to be with him in a covenant relationship. Many times you'll feel like you fall short. Apostle Paul is writing to Timothy, a young believer. And you can read that in 2 Timothy chapter 2. That if we are faithless, he remains faithful. Many times we fall short because we are human. When we are falling short, it's what we are going to do next that is going to change our relation with God. In our marriage, it's not what we are doing now that might affect our marriage. It's what we are going to do next that is going to improve our marriage. Again, if we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot disown himself. My prayer for each one of you that listen to our messages for the last 3-4 weeks, or even just today, is that your marriage will be going to the next level. And the best way to do that is start applying those 4 principles, those 4 relationship goals that have a Christ-centered life. I'm not saying be a Christian, but not just that. Be a follower of Christ. Develop your relation as a covenantal relation with God. Number 2, be a mission-driven marriage. Husband and wife together, be on the same page. Number 3, be a devil-kicking. Fight for your marriage. Don't fight in your marriage. You and your spouse are on the same team, and you should be on the same page when you go to the battle. Be sure to have the right strategy to attack the enemy or to put a stop to his schemes to destroy your marriage. And the 4th, the last but not the least, become a covenant keeper. Be intentional in protecting what God entrusted you with. Let's stand up, because I would like to end this series in prayer for marriages. In today's world, we are under attack. Today's world, it's offering only casual approach and contractual approach to marriage. Don't settle for that. Marriage is something more than that. And if you want to understand, if you want to experience the depthness of the true blessed marriage, don't settle for casual. Don't settle for contractual, and enter or develop a covenantal approach to marriage. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for what you've been stirring in our hearts and in our minds. That with you, through you, we can have a godly marriage. We can have a better marriage. I'm asking for you to bless every marriage that is listening to my voice right now, in this room or online. Especially marriages that struggles, especially marriages that are at a crossing point, at an intersection in their life. I'm asking for you to just show them your grace and your desire for marriages. I'm praying right now for restoration. I'm praying right now for healing in the marriages. Without realizing we are hurting each other in our marriage, and without realizing our kids get hurt in the process. I'm asking for you to just help us seek your heart for our lives and seek your heart for our marriages. I'm praying right now for our teenagers, for young adults, for people that are not married yet. I'm asking for you, Heavenly Father, to just show them that what this world has to offer is not sustainable and is not fulfilling. A casual approach to marriage, it's set to fail. Contractual approach to marriage is not enough, but a covenantal approach to marriage. It's your godly design, and it's the best way to live and to have abundant, amazing, wonderful, successful marriages in our life. So we are asking for you to bless each one of us and bless our marriages from now and forever, because we are trusting in your faithfulness. Even when we are faithless, you are still faithful to see us through. Amen.